Welcome back, you guys, to the Film Lovers Guide to the Galaxy. Hope you Galaxy Brains had a great weekend. If you celebrate 4th of July, Murica. If you don't, well, then you got an extended weekend. As always, I'm here and joined with Joe. Joe, how we doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I had a pretty good 4th of July. Just kind of hung out with a couple people and watched fireworks. Pretty normal stuff. Aside from that, just stayed a little busy. Tried watching a couple things. I have a couple things to talk about before we get to our main topic, but that's for later. But other than that, pretty good week.
Hey, you guys. And as you can hear, usually Jared would be leading off our podcast, but he's got a wedding to attend to, his brother's wedding. So,
Congratulations to
yes,
his family.
congratulations to his brother there. So, it's going to be an awesome weekend. So, he'll be back for the next episode. But we went from a trio to a duo today. It feels pretty good to celebrate 4th of July. I just recently came back from Sacramento, hanging out with my wife's family up there.
You end up doing like crazy fireworks again?
Yeah, unfortunately, there was less production of fireworks and the price went up. So he bought the same amount that he usually spends, our Uncle Todd, and he got almost half of that from what he normally gets, which kind of sucks.
So I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Yeah, but it did feel good to hang out with people in this new era post, COVID-19.
Hell yeah, baby.
So got some good barbecue. Matt from the Mortal Kombat podcast that I do with cooked up some really good burgers. Finally got to see his brother David for the first time. I'm pretty sure I met him like a couple of years back, but this is before we started recording together. So it was pretty cool just to get to hang out with them. Also met a couple streamers. We went to a bar one of the Friday nights over there. So that was pretty cool to do. So felt pretty good there. But, it's always good to hang out with family. And that is a big theme of today's show.
Dude. God, Jesus Christ.
Hopefully we don't go too fast with this topic here today.
Oh, my God, dude.
So if you guys haven't guessed so far, we are going to talk Fast and Furious. We're going to kind of go through all the movies. I have a list of dividing them up rather than talking about them individually. But before we do that, what were you want to talk about, Joe?
All right, so there's a couple of things. So I really try to prep for this one. Not only did I prep for the movie stuff, but I've always been asked, "Hey, what have you been watching?" and all that kind of stuff. And I try to just remember it, but this time around I sort of jotted it down. And also I jotted down a couple things that I've been bugging me. So because a lot of the stuff I watch is just on the computer, so keep that in mind if you guys are listening. I'm sure that if you guys are watching them, streaming them on the TV or whatever, it might be different. But number one, HBO Max fucking sucks. Okay, fucking sucks on the computer. There's a caveat. There is no next episode option. In other words, if you're halfway through an episode and you're like, all right, I already watched this one and I want to watch the next one, there's no like Netflix where you just hit next. It doesn't exist. Number two, Netflix, the volume slider for Netflix and Hulu is horizontal like this. But HBO Max is vertical. So it's kind of hard to control your volume. What I don't get is HBO Max, I only have it because of this exclusive content. And I watch some of the stuff that's on the exclusive content. But just I don't know if any other streaming service has a copyright on how they format their web page when they're streaming. Because I think a lot of these streamers would be watching on the computers. I feel like that's a common thing, watching on your phone, watching on your computer, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a quality of life thing. You have the content. Fix the motherfucking quality of life. Your HBO Max. Your HBO. Anyways, that's okay. Second, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to watch a couple things this week. Actually, it was 2 weeks, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I wanted to watch Studio Ghibli. So I was like, all those movies. On HBO Max, because they're all available on HBO Max.
Yes.
They're all dubbed. So they're in English.
Okay.
And I guess, yes, that's a preference thing, but immediately, I hated it.
Was there no audio channel?
Only English.
Only English.
Only English.
Okay.
So, because I think because I'm sure there's English versions of it with the voice actors, and they probably have to pay or they
Yeah,
probably have whatever it is.
they usually
So
cast like very good actors or voice actors to
I'm sure they
dub.
do. I don't know. It's just me, but I like to have it in Japanese, and subbed is fine. That's fine. And the third, there's actually four things, and you can interrupt me anytime. I've been watching Rick and Morty, just this
Uh-huh.
new season happening. It's very good. I like it. That's all I have to say about that. And the last thing I watched was The Terminal with Tom Hanks. Terminal came out a while ago. This is one of the few movies I watch a couple times because I like it. The This time when I'm watching it around, what I really didn't like about it, and this is more of a observation on American culture,
Hmm.
are Americans are really really stupid. And what I mean by that is, if you meet someone that clearly doesn't speak English, let's say you met a Chinese person and you said, um, go over there, and the person just stares at you. What does an American do? They say the same thing but louder. Go over there. Like, why? How would that translate? You know what I mean? Like, how does that make your point even more? I don't know if this happens in other countries. Like, if you went to like France, they would do the same shit. But I feel like in the movies, it happens a lot, and I think it's very accurate to American culture. Why do you see the same thing just louder? It's not going to help them understand it better.
Right. No, I
I
get it.
never understood that. But those are the four things I've been sort of watching in the last week or two.
Yeah, us Americans can be dumb. Yeah, so HBO Max, I will say like their UI, they need to they need to pay whatever Netflix people are getting paid and just double it because HBO Max, their library is the best out of all of them. I hands down they have the best movies that are their collection of movies. I'm not saying their originals are all great. I'm just saying like in terms of building a library, they have a vast amount. But I understand Joe's point. That shit can be irritating if you don't you make it hard to watch. Like Netflix is on its own, and Hulu is pretty good at it for the most part, but everyone else, their UI is just kind of falling behind relative to what we have been accustomed to with Netflix. And maybe, like I said, Netflix is about ease of use, but at the same time, they were there first. So that can always have something to do with it as well. Yeah, so outside of watching all these Fast and Furious movies, over when I was over there in Sacramento with the family, watched got to watch the Tomorrow War. It's a new movie from Amazon that stars Chris Pratt and Yvonne from Chuck. I'm not going to be able to pronounce her name. I'm going to tell you right now. So this movie is like every sci-fi and time travel and kind of creature film that you think of. So I would tell you to think of Alien or Aliens, think of the Terminator, think of Predators, think of all those movies together. And when you're watching the Tomorrow War, it made me want to watch all three of those movies separately because this movie didn't do anything right. The action scenes were okay. I would tell you that Chris Pratt's biggest strength as an actor is his charisma. And when you take that shit away from him, he is such a flat actor that he can't do things like Arnold Schwarzenegger can do. And when I say that, I mean like the first Terminator. The second Terminator, you got to see kind of like his charisma leading to comedic timing, but they kind of robbed him away of that. It's a solid C minus, and I think I'm being very generous with the grading right now because some of the action scenes were cool. Plus, when J.K. Simmons is in the scenes that he was in, man's fire. He's always owning the scenes that he's in. So that's all I've been watching, really. So except for what's coming out that we're talking about. So Fast and Furious, this franchise, who would have thought when the first movie came out, the Fast and the Furious remake, or remake as in quotes there loosely, of Point Break, somehow turned into this mega billion-dollar franchise that has not, nine movies to its name, 10 if you count the spin-off as well, and it has two more coming out in the next 2 years. That's crazy when I really think about it. Does the first movie is about boosting cars? What did you remember? Do you remember the first time you watched the Fast and the Furious, here, Joe?
Yeah, yeah, I watched it in, oh god, I don't know if it was in theaters or not. I do remember the cars being like little rice rockets.
Yes.
A lot of the racing was like street racing with underglow and things like that. I remember, what is it, racing for pinks? Remember that
Hmm.
term? And then um, you got to remember, these guys were stealing from trucks containing like VCRs. I mean,
VCR
like,
DVD players, man.
yeah. But
What a time to be alive.
I guess I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea how much a VCR costs. I have no idea how much a DVD player costs like back then. I'm hoping it was like $50 or something. But yeah, I do remember that. I remember it. The thing is, the concept Fast and Furious wasn't necessarily original, but it's like going to somewhere where you kind of know what's going to happen. You have hot girls, you have street racing, because I think street racing was fairly popular at the time.
Mhm.
You have a heist aspect of it. You have a underground cop aspect of it. So it kind of like checks all the bookmark or all the check marks of the rubric of a decent movie. And I think it's a good movie. For I don't know if it necessarily held up, but I think it was fine, and people just liked it. I think they liked the fact that it's just like a cop heist racing movie, because I think a lot of people like it. Um, so I think that because it did well, as all movie theaters, all movie producers do, just make a second one. And we'll get into it more and more, but because I also have my list of the whole thing and what I thought of it and all that. But that's what I thought of the first one. But it was good. It was good, like a good solid B plus movie.
Yeah, so the first one I remember because keep in mind this came out in 2001. Both me and Joe were in high school. I'm pretty sure it's like if it's not freshman, then it's sophomore year. It's either one of those years. Came out. I remember going to watch this movie for the first time. If you guys are in the Westminster HB area, there's this theater that used to be called Westminster 10 Edwards Theater there. Sticky floors. I remember watching this movie. I'm thinking to myself, man, I see the market from Little Saigon that's in there. I'm like, hey, they filmed that shit here. That's pretty cool. And it made me realize also that man, there's a lot of models that like to pose next to cars.
Dude, that's awesome. It's
I've
it's fan service, man.
I've never see. I'm not the car culture guy. Even after watching this movie, it didn't make me be like, "Oh yeah, I need to get a muffler or something like that," or spoiler. I need to put a tail on those cars. Right? That's not something that I got from it. But the one thing I appreciate about the first movie is that it was simple storytelling. You got this cop that's trying to go undercover with this group, and shit, like he starts falling for him. And you got to keep in mind, I watched this movie before Point Break. So then when I finally watched Point Break, I'm like, oh, what a rip. But just in reverse, without like the surfing, it's replaced with cars. I also introduced to certain terms like NOS. I did not know people can put NOS in their car. And then if they decide to want to just like turn it up, it kind of speed boosts their car. I thought that's only reserved for like, Mario Kart when you got like the little star turbo and kind of going through. So um, it was fun. It didn't take itself too seriously, which I thought that gives it that extra charm to it. But yeah, I thought it was a good start to a franchise that I didn't realize was going to get a sequel. Keep in mind, you guys, like this is in 2001. It had a $38 million budget and it made $207 million. Like this movie tracked well and deservedly so. Vin Diesel came on the map with this movie. Someone that's kind of like stirred, forceful, but kind of cool as well, playing the lead character Dom. Brian Walker is really good as the undercover agent that like falls in love with the sister, and now it's like shit. I kind of fall in love with his family, that type of thing. So, but yeah, that led to Too Fast, Too Furious, which only got brought back one person, and that was Paul Walker. We got introduced to new characters like Tyrese, Ludacris, Ava Mendez was a part of this movie, which blew my mind. I completely forgot she was in this movie. Both of them they were thinking about coming back, but Vin Diesel declined to come back to the second movie so he can do Chronicles of Riddick, which smart move, Vin Diesel. Chronicles of Riddick's really good. That's probably one of your better movies. So this movie here it got double the budget now. It went from 38 right now. It has a $76 million budget, but it only made $236 million. So even though it made a lot of money, it didn't make as much of a gain as the first one. Primarily, I don't know if it's because these guys are trying to be too funny, or if it's because of lack of Vin Diesel. One will say one will say the other. Vin Diesel thinks it might be because he's not in it. So what do you think, Joe, about the second movie here?
It fucking sucks. It's now I'm gonna. I guess I'll say this before I have to repeat myself. I don't like the franchise overall. Uh, and I'm not trying to say it's like the shittiest movie or franchise ever. It kind of got old for me. That being said, I'll speak relatively to the other ones. Two fucking sucks. It's I'm pretty sure it is the worst of the 10. Whatever. It was awful. I am surprised that they even made it. Like I personally thought that this movie, Too Fast, Too Furious,
Mhm.
would have like, all right, this is it. Like you guys are done now. Like you guys tried because there's tons of movies out there where they have like an okay initial movie, they made a
Mhm.
sequel, kind of sucked, and that's it. That's all they have, just two movies. This one's like, just two movies, we're done. And I'm like, yeah, it just exact same feeling. Yeah, okay, you guys tried. It was kind of shitty. We're good. But then they decided to make a third one, Tokyo Drift, which is even more bizarre in my brain. And I'm just going to go chronologically in terms of when they were released.
Yes.
I'm thinking like, what the fuck is this? They actually made a third one. I watched the third one in theaters out of curiosity. I took my girlfriend there at the time, and it was just like it was exactly like the first one, just Asian. You have you have a completely different cast
Uh-huh.
for the most part, and then you brought in Dom at the end to just be like, okay, kind of a throwback. But just like what? Like I am absolutely flabbergasted at how much money this this franchise is making because the amount of make money it made after two just like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
It's like making like 40% more every other movie. I don't get it. Props to was it Universal, whoever owns this,
Yes.
that they
Universal.
thought and I don't know they whoever they bring in, it's incredible. So huge props to them. Hate the franchise. Two fucking sucks. That being said, I do like Ludacris and Tyrese as actors because they provide some flavor of humor and kind of like breaking up the monotony. They're like the salt and pepper sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I really like them as actors in this whole series. They also made a shit ton of money. So props to them because Tyrese made like a R&B album or some shit. It was fucking terrible. And
Yeah, man. Tyrese is
I
always the guy from Usher's My Way. He's the guy that like Usher's like
yes,
dancing
that's
off
too.
to.
But at the same time, this dude is he in any other movie, or he just doing this? Because that's
I
fine
mean,
too.
it's just him doing this because he tried a couple indie movies. Baby Boy was probably his best one.
Oh right.
But I couldn't think of any other movies at
It
the top of
just
my head right now that he'd be
I
in.
I don't think these two guys are quote unquote good actors because good actors have range. That being said, Helen Mirren, anyways, um, because these guys do play the role that niche in this franchise well,
Yeah.
and that's enough for them. They probably made enough money for the rest of their life. It's fine, and they're going to continue doing all this until this burns to the ground. It is what it is, and at some point they're going to have to tie it off.
Yeah.
Anyways, it two sucked. It fucking
Okay.
sucked.
So two sucked. That goes and coincide with Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. So the first movie was directed by Rob Cohen. He's a director that, to be honest with you, outside of that movie and Triple X, if you which also starred Vin
Triple
Diesel.
X. Yeah, that's right.
He hasn't done really anything that's meaningful. So flash in the pan. John Singleton, on the other hand, is a really good director. He did Too Fast, Too Furious. It just kind of sucks that that movie didn't pan out for him because John Singleton passed away a couple of years ago. So R.I.P. to him. He did make a lot of really good movies. If you guys like Four Brothers, I thought that was a good one. Like I said, Baby Boy, that movie came out before Too Fast, Too Furious. He made the Samuel L. Jackson Shaft, but most people remember him for Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, so Rosewood. So it's kind of just kind of sucks that that movie itself he didn't do so well in, which leads into Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, where everybody's new cast, new location. Yes, you get a little like cameo from Vin Diesel, just like steal a stamp of approval. But this is completely new for everybody. So there's a couple takeaways I have from Tokyo Drift. I think Tokyo Drift is the MCU's Thor: The Dark World, which basically is telling me that like they're trying to fix whatever Tokyo Drift did within the rest of the universe as we continue to go along and talk about these movies. But two things came out of Tokyo Drift. They decided to bring in Justin Lin. Justin Lin, before he did Tokyo Drift, he did Better Luck Tomorrow. I don't know if you saw that, Joe.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie. Had a whole Asian cast, which you know, in hindsight, I guess that's why he might have been brought in for Tokyo Drift. But Chris Morgan is a guy that's kind of like a staple into writing for the newer generation of Fast and Furious movies. So those two guys are kind of going to be like in sync with one another when it comes to this. Because once Tokyo Drift happens, and let me tell you, Tokyo Drift had a $85 million budget, but now only made 159 million. So if we account for like marketing and stuff, it barely pushed even. If anything, it might have lost money. And so I don't know about you. I thought this franchise done. Tokyo Drift, that's it. We're good, right?
Yeah, I mean, 2 sucked, and
Yeah.
they did 3, and like, all right, 3 pretty much shit the bed too. Don't do it again, and they have the balls. They
So
have the balls
yeah,
to
the
make
balls.
another one.
So 3 years later, Fast and Furious, there's no duh, comes out. And we basically see the origins of the genre changing. It went from boosting cars, getting pink slips, to being a full-fledged action movie now, where these guys have become superheroes.
Not
Fast and
yet.
not yet,
Not like 9 and 10 or whatever. All that shit.
correct. So Fast and Furious, though, it was a good reboot. You had the whole original cast come back from the first movie. So you got Vin Diesel, you got Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, Michelle Rodriguez. But but it's something where it's like this movie takes place after Too Fast, Too Furious. So Tokyo Drift hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
And it's very important to know this because we're about to enter a new timeline going into this. I think it's pretty cool that this is kind of the start. I up until this point, I thought this was the second best movie outside of the original one, just because they're trying to do something different. They had, and this is when Justin Lin started taking a little bit liberties of the stunts that we see, but it wasn't that crazy just yet. What did you think about Fast and Furious, which is essentially a reboot of this franchise?
Right. I thought it was like the first one on crack with the new coat of paint. He's working with the FBI. He teams up with Dom again. You're taking down like a drug lord and all that kind of stuff. The thing is with this one is it was pretty cookie cutter, I think, in terms of an action film.
Mhm.
But because they shit the bed on 2 and 3 was what the fuck, 4 was like, all right, we're back to normal. So I'm pretty sure it did well in the box office because I think every movie at this point after the Tokyo Drift did well.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. But I just don't think the fourth one. I'm just calling it Fast and Furious 4. It's getting ridiculous to keep track of everything. That one is not memorable, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from that one.
I think so. There's a good delineage, and we'll go when we go through here, because to me, Fast and Furious and Too Fast Too Furious is like its own entity. I think it's just those two. Tokyo Drift is just a lost son that's out there, and then Fast and Furious, the fourth one, is kind of a reset button. And then 2 years later, we get Fast Five, which to me, this franchise changed because it brought Dwayne the Rock Johnson in here. Adding the Rock might have been the best thing that's happened to this franchise because now we have someone of equal footing trying to chase Dom because Dom is now kind of like uh in at least in the fifth movie they're running away from the law, so they're being pursued. The whole team comes back, but now we add Tyrese, we add Ludacris in there, so we're starting to see a blend of cast of the first three movies starting to trickle in as we're building this, expanding this world out. It turned into a big heist movie here. The, there's this crazy. If you guys haven't watched this movie, guys, there's a couple crazy dumb stunts that are here. Not as dumb as we keep going on, but I mean, the biggest action set piece is that they use their cars and they drag the bank, like a vault outside of the bank, and they're dragging it all through Brazil like crazy. I was thinking to myself, you know what? This is like, I agree with Joe's rules. If you establish the rules beforehand, I'm going to accept what you do with the rest of the movie. Fast and Furious was kind of a reboot. I accepted that, you know what? Maybe physics is going to be tossed out of here. And that and that whole the car sequence of them just transferring the vault on the streets with chains and cars was so ridiculous. But that shit was so fun to watch. I don't know. I really enjoyed Fast Five.
It's I want to say from 5 to 8. It's the formula is this: you bring in a brand new big name actor or celebrity, and you up the ante on the action. Those are the two things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try not to go through it too quick, but 5, you have The Rock. 6, you run it back with The Rock, but Rock's on the other side. Tokyo Drift happened that. There's like 7, you have Statham, and then 8's I think when you start bringing Charlize Theron,
Mm-hmm.
and then on top of that you bring in you throw in the action. We did the bank thing. Now we're gonna have to do fucking cars going into buildings and shit and flying all over the place. Just as long as it keeps on going up, just as long as you have brand new actors where the ensemble gets bigger, and just as long as the action gets better. Better is subjective. That's the reason that the box office went up and up and up because people going in, all right, I want the same shit as last time, but more. It's kind of like a drug, really. And I think from 5 to about 8, they were able to do that. I think so.
Yeah,
But
so
I liked 5 though.
yeah, Five's a fun movie, and this is kind of where I kind of see where this franchise is like, oh, okay, now I actually really want to see more of these movies because it's fun. Like, I sometimes feel like these movies are movies that Jared liked with Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder movie, which is that it's dumb. We know it's dumb, but we're just watching it because it's actually fun because the characters in there just make it fun, even though we know it's kind of ridiculous. Just to keep this in context, you guys, like Fast Five, 125 million budget, but it made 626 million dollars. So they found the formula. The Rock likely, like I say, like this franchise will peter out if The Rock didn't show up because I think we would see more of Fast and Furious, the fourth movie, than we would with 5, and having The Rock added a different element. And so we move to Fast and Furious 6. The Rock needs a favor, calls Dom and his team because they need to track Luke Evans. Luke Evans is, he's got Stone and Beauty and the Beast. That's usually but this is where he gets his big break. I mean, I don't remember him a lot in different movies until he was in this one as the bad guy. Let me remind everyone else that if this is your first time watching these movies, Gal Gadot was in these past 2 movies. This is her before Wonder Woman. And if you saw these movies and then you watch Wonder Woman, you're like, shit, how did she get that Wonder Woman role? Because she's really not that good in these movies. I mean,
Well,
she's
she was in Batman. She did a couple things. I don't
I
know. That
know,
was after.
but she's not that great. But
Yeah.
Luke Evans really solidified like, okay, like we can bring good villains into these movies. Gina Carano was his right hand woman, which she no more on the Mandalorian, but before all that crazy thing happened, she's a pretty badass. I mean, she was Ronda Rousey in terms of depth before Ronda Rousey, right?
But yeah.
Yeah, so six brought back Michelle Rodriguez as well because we all
And
thought she died.
bringing back from the dead is a very common theme we got
In
going
these
on in
movies,
all these movies.
right? But yeah, and to me, this has okay. I should have led off with like what your favorite stunts are, but I'll tell you this: this is one of those movies where I'm like, holy shit, what can they do more with their stunts? Because I don't know, remember this, Joe. I mean, you probably did because you were watching it. She was, what was it? Was she driving? But she was on the car, and there was an accident, headborn. She's falling in the air. She's gonna die. What happens? Dom jumps from his car, grabs her, and hits the windshield, like the front windshield, and then gets up like it's nothing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
oh man,
yeah, but
that shit is so funny. But I mean, because in the moment, right? He's like, "She's my wife," but she doesn't know that. Um, she doesn't remember who I am. I love her. I'm gonna save her, and he gets away without a scratch.
Because family.
Family. Oh man, I mean that stunt was hilarious. But it was, I mean, in the moment it worked because of the feelings that you had. But if you just look at in its context, that shit is crazy.
I'm just letting you know that, for those listening that watch other videos like on YouTube of people getting hurt, humans are very, very delicate. Okay, like you fall from a skateboard wrong, broken ankle. You trip on a rock, broken teeth. I'm sure you've known people who fell headfirst over a bike and scratched up their face and all that kind of stuff. And so again, I want to make the point saying that I am not here to watch these movies for its realism. Okay, I accepted that. The same reason I go to McDonald's, not for its high quality patties. Okay, I know exactly what I'm getting, and I accept that, and I like it. So with these, Dom. By the way, anyone falling more than like 3 stories on top of a car probably dead or brain dead. Okay, or paraplegic, almost guaranteed. Especially when you're denting the hood like that into the engine. Engine block's ridiculous, by the way. So I'm okay with that. I also remember, I forgot if it was Hobbs and Shaw or one of them, but it's one. It might actually been 8 or something. But I remember Dom and Jason Statham driving, like playing a game of chicken. They decide to go floored against each other. They go straight up, a head-on collision, fly through the windows of each one, and like punch each other in the air or something. Both get up, not a single scratch on their face. Like,
oh man, we'll get to that. So
yeah.
and that's not what's funny, but like this is the big one where they were trying to stop Luke Evans from stealing this plane with all the stuff that's in there. And so they had this whole car chase scene of like planes, which, like I said, these action scenes, they're very frenetic, but I like it because it's like, you're really throwing physics out of the window with some of these things, which I thought was pretty cool. This movie had $160 million budget, made $788 million.
Dude, it's amazing. It's
Crazy,
amazing.
right? And so, and this is the first movie that had a mid-credit scene, which I was like, "What? You're gonna put a mid-credit scene in a Fast and Furious movie?" But it's to set up the next villain, and that is Jason Statham, because we will learn in Furious 7 that it's his brother that they kind of attacked there, and he's gonna get revenge. which I thought was crazy because that, I was coming off the high of six. I was like, I remember in the theater, I was like, man, this is a really good movie. And then you're telling me Jason Statham's going to be the next bad guy in this movie? I'm like, sign me up. But I also then remembered, wait, so this is the ending of Tokyo Drift. So we are in the current timeline.
Yes.
We are here now.
Tokyo
We are
Drift
in the present.
happens. Yeah, Tokyo Drift happens after 6.
Yes. So we move on to 7. Jason Statham's in this movie. The Rock has come back. The whole cast is back.
Kurt Russell's in here. Nathaniel Emmanuel's in here.
Yeah.
Ronda
So
Rousey's in this one.
Ronda Rousey, Jamon Hutson. I can't never pronounce his name, but if you see him, you'll know him. He's the guy from Amistad. He's the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. Or not Guardians of the Galaxy. Captain Marvel. He was one of the guys that was there as well. But this movie had a couple different changing of the guard. So Chris Morgan is still the writer. I'm still going to this. But Justin Lin did not do this movie. James Wan decided to do this movie. If you guys know who James Wan is, he is the horror master. He has done, he did Insidious, he did Saw, he did The Conjuring 1 and 2. And he did stuff with for Aquaman when it eventually comes out. So I was excited to be like, oh shit, we're going to put a new director here. And I like James Wan. I wonder what person that has done horror films going to bring to this franchise. And then as we get halfway or maybe 3/4 into filming, tragedy happened. Paul Walker dies, which kind of puts a sting not only with this. And this is where I think the family, it's a meme now, but this is kind of where the theme of Vin Diesel comes up because Vin Diesel and Paul Walker were like really good friends. And I mean, they wanted to do these movies together. So losing someone like that during filming had to be really tough for them.
The theme of family was there throughout because they always had that barbecue, always had that grill out. The fact that he married his sister and blah blah blah, and everyone's intertwined. So yeah, the family's all there. I think they definitely emphasize it here. I think that they shouldn't have memed it so hard, like to the point where internet caught wind of it.
Yeah.
It's again extremely unfortunate that Paul Walker passed away, and sort of ironically, unironically, it's because of a driving accident.
Yeah.
But I think that for this one, they sort of did the same thing. You brought in, you expanded it. You brought in Statham. You brought in Kurt Russell. You upped the ante on the action because I distinctly remember they're in Abu Dhabi. They're driving cars between, like they flew it through one into another one, and so they, without a doubt, they checked the 2 boxes: new person, and also bringing in the action. And also the giant catalyst was the fact that they had to do a Paul Walker tribute where this is, at the very end they had the driving thing, and See You Again was a huge hit and all that stuff. And so I'm sure this made like $1 billion or something.
Yeah. So this movie,
great.
190 million budget, $1.5 billion.
Just
it crossed the $1 billion mark. This is still the highest grossing movie to date for the film of the franchise. At the time of the release, it's the 4th highest grossing film of all time. I don't think anything's crossed that. It might be 5th because of Avengers moving.
Yeah, just anytime you have like a giant franchise like this where someone actually dies and mid credits, it really bumps numbers.
Bumps up. But yeah, it bumps. But like to bump it to 1.5 billion is,
hey man, it's a golden goose. What can I say?
So Joe was talking about that stunt, which I thoroughly enjoyed. What I enjoyed about this movie in particular is that James Wan, if you've watched Aquaman, and he frames his action sequences a little different. A lot of it is like the camera's moving, like it flips, or it takes a side and it's very unique. And he tries a lot of that in Furious 7, which I think gives it a very distinct look. Even though it's a Fast and Furious movie, it feels very different relative to 5 and 6 before, because the action scenes, the chase scenes are always going to kind of be the same. But when it comes to the shooting and the hand-to-hand combat, he took a lot of exception. I mean, granted, he got Jason Statham, he had Dwayne Johnson, he had Vin Diesel that would do this stuff. Like, Joe was saying, one of the funniest parts was like this bomb was kind of going off, or these rockets were going off, and then they were both on top of this platform of the garage, and then the rock started to crack, and and then Vin Diesel like really said, "Thing about street fights, the street always win," and then he stops on the concrete, and then Jason Statham falls down. Like that shit is so good. And Vin Diesel said that with a straight face when he did this. And
He's such a meme, dude.
it is so funny. And it was funny because Dakota thought it was okay because I showed her the movie.
I'm with her 100%. It's just okay.
But she made so many complaints about so another one was like Rock got sidelined a lot with this movie. So he really was only in the beginning of the movie and towards the end. So I don't know, and this will come up with the next movie, but basically she had the biggest gripe because, she used to intern in a doctor's and trying to learn health. Rock was in this cast and he sees the explosions going off and he looks at his daughter and he's all like, Daddy's got to go to work. And he looks at his cast and then with the power of his arm and biceps, he
just breaks it. Breaks it.
This stuff is so good, man. I love Seven because it went for it with a lot of stuff, and I think Seven is a very good. If we look at this through, like I said, through the lens, I think 5, 6, and 7 is a good trilogy cap. Like those movies together make sense. Because 8, when we go to 8 and 9, it becomes a little bit different. But yeah, man, I absolutely enjoyed this movie. This is one of the most fun movies I remember watching in the theater.
I don't know about enjoy it the most, but I definitely knew what I expected and I got what I expected. So in the sense there, it was good. Again, the whole damper on my end is I don't like the franchise. Okay. I'm a car guy. I like cars. Hot girls on cars. Awesome. Ridiculous, over the top action. It is what it is. I've accepted that. The one thing that you have to straight up ignore in all these movies is that the quiet scenes in between where their actual acting is required fucking sucks. Like anytime Dom has to do some serious shit and talk to other people, it fucking sucks. Everything outside the loud action, the ridiculous fighting sequences, and the fast cars fucking sucks. I have to say a lot of people must agree, but everything else is exactly what you expect. Very flashy, very explosive, very awesome, very fun to watch. But God, Vin Diesel's. I don't know if he's. I am trying to see if Vin Diesel's a good actor. I don't know.
I don't. This is a really good question to ask because I don't think he is. I think so. I know he didn't create these characters. Gary Scott Thompson, he's the one that creates these characters, but we know Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto. That is, it's synonymous to him as if, Sylvester Stallone is to Rocky, or if
or Arnold any of the Friends cast.
Really. Yeah. So the problem is that those guys, we accept and we believe, even with all the Rocky movies that are made, right? Sylvester Stallone is Rocky Balboa. And whenever he's in those movies, he tries in terms of the acting. You can tell that he really kind of goes for it. With Vin Diesel, he's so stiff. He legit is really stiff. And it's amazing because you thought it was okay, but adding good actors, Jared will disagree with me, but I think The Rock is a really good actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
works
hard on his craft.
And so when you compare him next to Vin Diesel, it's like
fucking
night
awful.
and day. It's like night and day, right? So, but yeah, so, after this movie, we got The Fate of the Furious, F8, which, God, the name itself, man. Why did
it's Fate of the Furious. It is what it is.
So we got a new director, F. Gary Gray. He comes in. F. Gary Gray, he has done movies like The Original Friday, Set It Off, Negotiator. Straight Outta Compton was his last big movie that came out. So this guy is a really good director. Like he makes solid movies, and so we bring in Fate of the Furious. New bad guy now is Academy Award winner Charlize Theron, right? With awful haircuts, like, but
I the thing is, here's what I'm thinking. Right, there is somebody there in the casting or whatever department that's like, awesome. This is a good idea, and we're gonna go with it. So
right,
it must have gone through multiple approvals because at this point it makes so much money that there's going to be a bunch of people involved to make sure it does not completely shit the bed.
right,
Because the goal is to make a billion of these movies, so don't
yes,
fuck it up.
yes,
Um, Charlize Theron. I know that she is the what is it the antagonist of this movie, right? The big bad girl in this case, and they're trying to make her look like a very very bad evil person. You don't have to give her does she have a bowl cut in 8? I know she has a bowl cut. She always had a bowl cut.
I don't know if this movie she had it. Maybe I'm just remembering it more for 9 than I do for
Yeah,
8.
it just.
I do know that she had her hair braided and stuff like that, so maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I just have the image of
I just feel like you
it
could have
now.
picked now. Nothing comes to mind, but I don't know if Charlize Theron was the ideal female antagonist. I'm trying to
Oh,
because
I think she is. The problem is not so much her; it's so much of the writing itself. Because when you have an Academy Award winner like her, like you don't need what you just need to do is make sure that she doesn't kind of phone in, and maybe she just wanted to get the paycheck, right? That could be it to kind of do that. But I think this also is like one of those movies where like she can just have fun doing it because it's not. Yeah, she plays a bad guy, but she doesn't have to be so serious about it. And she wasn't. It seems like she was having fun. It's just that the script itself didn't lend to her. Like I expect them to give her more to do.
the budget for all these movies is like 90% insurance for all those cars and buildings they blow up, 9% to pay all the people, and 1% for the writers.
Yeah,
If that, like the writing is such an afterthought in all these movies, like because the focus is all on the cinematography and the action sequences, I think.
yeah.
But you're right, the writing fucking sucks.
All right, so Fate of the Furious, this movie, like I said, Charlize Theron's the bad guy, and she wants to get the bird's eye or eagle eye, whatever that device is that can track everybody in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So she recruits Dom, doesn't recruit, blackmails Dom to go against his family to kind of recover it, while at the same time he's trying to play double agent.
Family.
Right? this is
Jesus.
this is kind of what he's doing. And so this is where if I thought shit didn't go bonkers last movie, this is kind of where the bonkers is because the craziest things happen, not so much with the stunts, because I was expecting the stunts to be crazy, but it's because the rewriting of certain characters is about to happen. All right. In Fast 7, clearly who's the bad guy? Jason Statham. Right?
Correct.
This movie, they retcon him to be he was a troubled agent and he was just trying to get revenge.
I
But
mean,
he
dude,
worked for the British. It's like,
yeah, they do that for everything. They just
and
add more shit.
and if you guys are listening to this, I really hope you watch all the movies because I should have said spoilers in the beginning, but we're too far into this for this to happen. But the conceit is that like Charlize Theron has Dom blackmailed because she has his son kidnapped, right? And so he's all like, okay, I'm gonna run this plan, but I need you, Helen Mirren, who shows up, and I'm like, oh shit, Helen Mirren's in here. What is she doing? She's just having fun too. I need you to do me a favor. And what does she do? Not only does um they plan to where they successfully get the nukes back to not be in Charlize Theron's hand, they also save the baby. You guys want to guess who saved the baby? It was freaking Jason Statham and Luke Evans. These were the two bad guys from the last two movies.
Yeah, continuity and writing isn't their strong point in any of these.
Like,
Because I feel like what they do is like they'll do some shit in the previous movie, and in the new one they're like, oh shit, we need to fix this up. So they just write 2 lines of things. All right, this guy, he was under control by a pill, and now he's good. and like now they think they can just write a completely different background for this person, it'll be okay. And that's a pretty common theme in all these movies, I think.
This movie bothered me a lot. Not so much of the action because we get to see The Rock push with one arm a missile as it's going through like
Well, that's a
during
good thing, right? That's the
yeah
shit you want to see. You're paying for that
that's
shit.
that's what I want to see. But like this is where the story kind of falters a little bit because now we're making people that were bad guys good guys, and I'm like I don't get this. So this movie had about $250 million budget, made $1.2 billion. Crazy.
Amazing.
Now we take a little detour because this is a spin-off. We got Hobbs and Shaw. So people loved the dynamic between Hobbs and Shaw in Fate of the Furious. I did too. I thought they were pretty. If I can block the actual writing of where these characters are going to be, I actually like the rapport between Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson. I thought it was really good. So Universal's like, let's give them their own movie, which kind of pissed off people like Vin Diesel. Tyrese was like, "You're breaking family apart." I mean, I'm trying to be serious
Look,
about this, but
money
like
is
he
everything,
tweeted.
dude.
So they do their own movie. It's called Hobbs and Shaw, and basically they're trying to find some virus that's out there, which is injected into Vanessa Kirby's DNA or bloodstream. Vanessa Kirby is also Jason Statham's brother in this movie, which The Rock is kind of flirting with her as well. So it's like, are these going to fall? You know, you got the little triangle here that does that. Idris Elba's the bad guy in this movie. He's basically playing as the trailers, you would say, Black Superman, which he kind of was with his like suit and armor that he had. This movie was also directed by David Leitch. He was one of the co-directors of John Wick. He also did Deadpool 2. But his best movie, I think, because John Wick, I've realized that maybe he does half the stunts the other guy does the half because he did John Wick 2 and 3. But his best movie to me is Atomic Blonde, which has a lot of crazy action sequences that if you guys haven't seen, you guys should watch. So I was expecting more from this movie, if that makes sense. I was expecting, I don't know. I should have expected different because I was like, oh, maybe there's less cars and more hand-to-hand action gun combat because you have The Rock and you have Jason Statham. They're both agents. Really, we shouldn't be focused on so much about cars, and it's still about cars. You know?
It. I mean, I think it was fine. It's they just feel the demand. The Rock overall is, probably the actor of the decade in terms of how many movies he's done. Dude's insane, and he's a workaholic. I think, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
they did a good comparison between The Rock and Shaw, and just the differences they have. I think the writing wasn't that bad. It's just because I think that Statham and Dwayne Johnson are relatively good actors, so they can make it work. Have the whole bad guy in the robotic suit and the crazy virus thing. I didn't watch it because they thought they'd give it a very unique idea.
Correct.
All it was fine. Again, let me reiterate: I don't like this franchise. It's just okay. All right, so uh, I am, and also they're gonna have a Hobbs and Shaw 2
Yeah.
at some point. So I'm not surprised either because of how well it did in the box office.
Yeah, so I'm like I said, the rapport between Rock and Jason Statham was really well done. I think people like Idris Elba, but just having fun within this movie. One of the funniest, best stunts is that we remember, if you're a big MCU fan, you remember Chris Evans, Captain America in Winter Soldier, trying to pull the helicopters so Bucky doesn't go away. No, actually, that's Civil War. I take that back. But I was trying to pull as he's holding on to the platform.
Oh
He's
yeah,
like,
the
the
helicopter.
helicopter, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Rock one-ups him in this movie because he's in a car and there's this plane that's trying to leave. And this man is holding on with chains to two chains with his hands. And he somehow is going to drag this plane down.
Yeah, again, it the realisticness of it all. Because the thing is, there's a hard cap to how much more ridiculous they can get. And I am thinking that they hit that cap very soon. Because if there is let's say that this is as extreme as they can get, um, that means you can't step on that pedal anymore, and all
Mhm.
that's left is adding more actors. There's a sort of limit there because you don't want like a billion people there, and I think eventually they're going to have to just kind of tie off the series, and I think that's coming soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, so now we get to the present. If you guys haven't watched Fast Nine, I would take a pause on this, go watch it in your theaters, support your local theater, and then come back and listen to it because I need to talk spoilers on this. So, F9, as it's called, just came out. We see Justin Lin come back, but it's now written by not only Justin Lin, but Daniel Casey. So, Chris Morgan is out, not the screenwriter anymore. In Fast Nine, we get a new villain, which is John Cena now. But John Cena in the trailers has been dubbed that's Dom's brother. And we're like, oh shit, Dom has a brother? And then at the end, one of those trailers is like, it's good to have family back. And who do we see? We see Hans, who died at Tokyo Drift, apparently, come back. So this movie here is whatever. And I have a feeling this is what's gonna end because they, like I said, they have two movies left. And I think they're gonna tie up this kind of franchise itself. I thought it was very different that they started this movie, and I don't know how you felt about them starting the movie with an actual prequel, not prequel, but like a flashback. Like you get to see young Dom and young John Cena. I don't know what his character's name is. I don't remember. But you get to see like
Jacob, that's
Jacob.
what it was.
Okay, that's what it is. So we get to see their flashback of what their brother dynamic is and how one is holding a grudge against the other and one's trying to top the other. And then we get to modern day where, Jacob is trying to steal something from Kurt Russell. And, we get the crew all back together, minus Paul Walker, since, he's got to watch the kids now in this movie anyway. I don't know. How did you feel about the flashback to start this movie off?
Specifically the flashback, and you mean the fact that their dad died.
Yeah.
I think that with the technology we have of making people look younger, because there's been movies in the past 2 or 3 years where they did younger versions of other people, and they were able to use computers or whatever to do really well. I don't know, like in this franchise must have like a massive budget, anyways.
Mhm.
I don't understand why they didn't use original actors to portray the younger themselves. Like why bring in clearly different people? It was not very. It didn't really lend very well to the story. But then again, story generally sucks, anyways. With the flashbacks, I really wish that was the only thing I could really think about. It's like, yeah, tragedy happens. Yeah, they had a falling out, and yeah, this is why the way they are. But I wish that they just used younger CGI themselves. That being said, right, there is no fucking way that they're brothers. They look. I mean, come on, man. You couldn't have said cousins or something. I guess because
uh,
they're just like whatever, like or some
family.
sort of, or like make it adopted or something. It's just they look. John Cena looks so much different than Dom, right? Or
Yeah.
it makes no sense. Like they're oh my god, like are they even the same ethnicity? I don't think they are.
Yeah.
Anyways, neither here or there. The flashbacks were just. I mean, look, you could have cut all of that out and just submitted it as like, all right, you can just have Dom tell the story. Yeah, back in the day, he fucked up my dad's car and blah blah. That's why we were mad, and we had a race, and then we told him to get the fuck out of here. The whole thing could have been like a 5 minute thing. I don't know if it was trying to fluff it up to make it the 2 hour mark or however long the movie was.
The movie is 2.5 hours long.
Okay, well there you go. I didn't think it was necessary.
This
I
movie should not have been 2.5 hours long.
yeah.
The basis of the movie is that Jacob is trying to steal two halves of a machine that can control satellite, and they need an activation key code. And the key code is actually the DNA of one of these girls, or the one that made the device, but no one knew about it so much yet. And this is how they bring Han back. So apparently, Han was recruited by Mr. Nobody, who is played by Kurt Russell. And so they needed to fake his death. So they let Deckard Shaw believe that he killed Han, but they saved him out of the fire so that he could protect Elle, who's the girl that's there. How
Yeah.
ridiculous does that sound when I say that?
I mean, look. Okay. I first. Well, okay. What? Okay. What? Aside from the DNA thing, what was the point of L?
That's it.
Like what?
She is the conduit to bring Han back. That's really all she is.
Eh,
Because they probably wrote themselves in a trance because it's like, how do we get him back and make it believable? Okay,
you don't even.
let's make him an agent, and then
You
let's fake his death.
don't need to make him believable. Just be like, he is doing his own thing, trying to stay away. You guys went all the way to Tokyo to track him down. You tracked him down. You talked him into coming in. That's fine. You don't need to bring in this British sounding Asian chick to come in to get her DNA to get stuff rolling. She has zero use in the movie.
Yeah,
Zero. Now that being, I like Han, by the way, because he's a big car guy. I like the actor himself, and I don't like. Another thing is what's the purpose of having Mia Toledo there? Like, she has zero function in this movie. You
hey
know,
man, that's her brother.
eh, that's the thing. Like, because I was like, okay, I was thinking that when she first came onto the scene, I was like, all right, you know what? She has zero purpose in this movie. I'm gonna actually watch her to see what she actually does physically to any of these scenes. So her whole role, I think, was, aside from her talking to John Cena that one time, is while they're driving, she just turns the knob to turn on the magnet. That's her whole thing. That's all she did, dude.
I
Like,
mean,
fucking,
she got a couple smacks of like the pots and pans when they were
I
going into the
I
house
guess,
to
but
investigate.
like,
So
it's just, and I have a whole other thing. It's going to be a small tirade, but just, I don't think that women who do hand combat look like these actresses. It's just not believable to me. Like Ronda Rousey coming in, and obviously, people have opinions on Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey fighting in that movie, like 7 or 6 or whatever, that was very believable because she's a very, very strong woman, well built, and all that kind of stuff, and I can believe that. But you have these Hollywood actresses that are like 100 pounds, like beating up bodyguards. No, it's not. It just breaks the fourth wall for me. But anyways,
like I said,
I
physics.
think I think Mia. Now that's the only. Those two are the only complaints I have. I really like the fact that they brought in the entire Tokyo Drift cast just
Yeah,
to build the rocket, because that's really one of the major advantages of the Fast franchise so far. Because it's so ridiculous, it's really easy to just bring in random people like Cardi B. Just fucking bring her in for random shit, and
yeah,
it's fine. It works, and it's just because the way this whole franchise is just sort of built,
yeah.
and I think that works well in terms of fan service, because I think people will look at that very favorably. Oh, look, fucking Cardi B showed up. Oh, look, so and so showed up, and that works, and I think that is in the favor of the movie.
Okay, so we got to talk about this. This was a joke. We've made jokes before. We've seen Rock move a missile, a projectile missile, with his own arms to redirect it. We've seen submarines come out trying to chase these cars, or the cars chasing them. So we've joked about, with the way these physics are, they're going to go to space at some point.
Yeah,
These motherfuckers did it with this movie.
dude,
They sent
I
them to space.
that that scene and the fact that they did that, because initially, if you guys clearly, if you guys haven't watched it, the Tokyo Drift cast comes in strictly to stick a rocket onto a car, in like a jet propulsion laboratory or whatever. I thought it was going to try to make like a shitty car super mega fast on the ground. That was
Mhm.
my initial thought. And then they went to space. The fact that they went to space, just the whole scene, bumped this whole movie for me a letter grade. That's it was just like they're in like fucking scuba suits. They're
Yeah.
duct taping this shit together. Um, Not to mention that it's highly illegal. You can't break that kind of airspace whatsoever. You get shot
Without
down by
people noticing.
yeah. NASA's gonna say something. There's gonna be some sort of flight regulations. You can't do that kind of shit. But that's not neither here or there. But the fact that they did that, and the fact that like for example, and this is gonna be kind of off the bar too, because the new Battlefield came out, and there's a scene in the trailer where it's a very popular scene where the guy jumps out of the plane, turns around, bazookas the plane behind him, and jumps back in. And that's a lot. It's just something that's very memey on the internet, and people like it. And so because this was talked about so much on the internet, we're like, all right, these guys are so fucking ridiculous. They're gonna go to space, and they actually did it. Props, because I really like it when people listen to what's out there on the internet and they actually do it in a good way. Like I think it was just very well done. It's obviously ridiculous.
Mhm.
It was. I loved it. I loved it. It's hard to hate something like that, and it's with the two best actors that are consistent in this whole thing with Tyrese and Ludacris. It was perfect. I loved it.
So yeah, I mean, this is kind of where we're at. There's going to be a 9 and 10 or 10 and 11 coming out.
Yeah, two
I
more.
thought the mid credit scene was actually pretty crazy that we see actually not Hobbs, Shaw there interrogating somebody, and then opens the door and sees Han. So there has to be a lot of mixed feelings because he thought
Yeah.
he killed him. So I'm kind of excited to kind of end this series because I need it to end. We played enough. Vin Diesel cannot be the lead guy in every
There's
movie.
a full woman cast also planned too.
Yeah. So
Sort of
in
like an
terms of
Ocean's
the
8 thing going on.
the main series, I am at diminishing returns now. So
Dude, that was diminishing returns like 7, dude.
uh, let's think about it this way, you guys. This movie has 10 movies with 2 more at minimum coming out. 2 others that are in production. There are only a handful of movie franchises that have made more movies than them. You have the MCU.
And those aren't even like like chronological. They're like
Logical.
there's just a bunch
Yeah.
of shit out there. It's really good.
So we have MCU. We have Godzilla, if you count all the Godzilla movies.
I mean, Star Wars,
Star Wars.
if you do it again, and then Star Trek, maybe.
Yeah. That's about it. Like when you really think about it, this movie and this movie is more successful than like Star Trek.
Yep.
Just the movies itself, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So let me ask you this. We know what the worst one is. What is your favorite one among all of these?
Oh man. I think I could just sort of tier them a little bit. I want to say that the top 3, and I'll tell you my favorite one. Top 3 is probably like 5, 6, 7,
Yep.
and because they're very very close, I like 6 because The Rock sort of like he like falls into his groove a lot better in 6. So, and I like Gal Gadot. I don't know. Rodriguez came back and whatever. But also the forehead joke. If you guys don't remember, it was ad libbed at the very end.
Yeah.
and you can actually catch him. You can catch Ludacris just spitting his water out. It's hilarious. But yeah, I think 6 was probably the best, and I think that at this point after 9, you're right. It's going to get diminishing returns, and it's interesting to see because we've been wrong before.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with the tiers. I think 5, 6, and 7 are the elite tier. I think 1 and 8 are in the next tier.
Yeah,
Hobbs and Shaw and 9 are the other tier, and then everything else kind of can fall below.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
your favorite six, and a lot of people's favorites either five or six. My favorite is seven. I think it's because it's a good ending cap to what I say from five to seven.
Yeah.
And I like that they brought someone different. You can, it's a Fast and Furious movie, but you can tell that James Wan tried to do a little bit spin. And like I said, he was dealt an unfortunate hand with Paul Walker passing, but he still made the movie work, especially where they had to kind of improvise on a couple things. But yeah, so what is your favorite action sequence out of all the ones?
Oh my god, there's so many, dude. Um, my favorite action sequence. Now, just because I liked it, or because how stupid it is.
Either or, whatever way you want to go.
Um, I mean, driving a car between buildings is pretty cool. I think on the is I don't know if this is a new one or eight. Is the one where they use a grappling hook on the cars and fucking fly all over the place. It
Oh,
was
that was
pretty.
eight. Yeah.
That was pretty ridiculous. And then just the rocket, and I don't know if it's an action sequence, but just the fact they went to space on a rocket is one of my favorite. Is a very memorable one, I gotta
One.
say. So those, I'd say those three.
There's a lot of crazy ones, but I think my favorite is in Fast Five, where the team steals that vault from the
Just
bank
throws
and
that
just
fucking ball like a
ping
wrecking
pongs
ball.
it all through Brazil. That to me is still, everything else is kind of ridiculous and fun, but that still to me is like the best sequence that they could have done. I'm sure we're gonna talk more Fast and Furious movies when they release, which hopefully is another couple of years from now. But yeah, you guys, this is kind of our recap for the whole Fast and Furious franchise. We knew that the top three movies were always going to be the same, so I think it's a little better to just talk about the series in general and kind of have a recap as we break down. But Joe, as we end this, tell us where they can find us.
Yes, you can find this podcast and all its information on at Film Lovers GTTG. Find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram, and you can also email us at filmloverspod@gmail.com. Do send us, we'll take anything, any kind of suggestions, any kind of criticism, any kind of addendums to what we said. If you want us to talk about a specific movie coming out, it's always a good thing to do, or any kind of franchises, even, or trilogies. We'd love to hear from you. So, again, that's Film Lovers DGTTG.
Cool. And if you want to find me talking about movies and stuff on Twitter, IG, it's at JNGO11. If you want to talk all things wrestling, Jared's normally here. You can find him at JLuthy, JLUTHY. Again, Galaxy Brains, it's great hanging out with you. Next time, we're going to be actually talking about the MCU and the new movie coming out, Black
That's gonna,
Widow.
it's gonna be a long one.
So until then, we'll see you guys next time.